In this video, we're looking at UFC Noche. I'm going to go through the entire card. We're going to give the predictions. We're going to talk about some of the best bets of the week, and we're getting deep into some of these matchups, so make sure you watch until the end. As always, you can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. Last week for UFC 293, we lost. Most of the hometown guys got their little butts beat. We saw Sean Strickland realize a UFC title. Just a crazy world that we lived in for the last 7 days. But we lost. At the end of the day, that's what happened, and I was wrong about a lot. But I tell you this, we do not lose back-to-back games. So you champions on KunithMMA.com, those of you that are interested in getting your membership, just know we're going to get it all back and then some this week. When you consider the parlays, the official bets, the DFS strategy guide, the projections model, the community of smart people cooking all of this up together and working together to come up with those slips, just know it's our time.
It's our time down here.
So let's get it. Right at the top of the card, we have Alexa Grasso, Valentina Shevchenko 2. A rematch for flyweight gold is upon us. Now there's so much to unpack from the first fight, and on the rewatch, I'm telling you now, I'm very confident in one side of this matchup. In their first fight, in round 1, Alexa Grasso wins on every judge's scorecard, and rightfully so. She was landing the more effective strikes, she spent more time moving forward, and she finished the round with a flurry and a takedown. She's up 1-0. Now in round 2, Valentina Shevchenko was able to secure takedowns, land some strikes from a dominant position, ultimately win the round with control time. This happens again in the third round, where the longtime champion is able to get Alexa Grasso down pretty easily with a double leg takedown. Going into round 4, Alexa Grasso is down 2-1, but she's taken it to the champ in the fourth round, stuffing takedowns, and she's in firm control of the round from start to finish. Late in the fourth, she ends up taking Shevchenko's back, submitting her with a rear naked choke. The squeeze was ridiculous. The squeeze would have broken her jaw if she didn't tap. Alexa Grasso had that mindset where everything below the nose is neck, and it worked out for her. She squeezed and squeezed and squeezed like she was going to win a UFC championship. So what did we learn? We learned that at this stage in their careers, if Valentina Shevchenko cannot secure a takedown, she will lose a round to Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso on the feet was just doing more. She was getting bigger reactions when she landed, and you'll notice that Valentina Shevchenko was standing very still. The stance was strong, the hands were up, and she was bouncing almost like she was somebody in character select, but she was static, and that's a problem that I have with her in this fight. Because on the other side, Alexa Grasso's feet are moving, her shoulders are popping, her head is swaying back and forth, and she's the one pressing forward. Alexa Grasso is going to win most of the striking exchanges because of that, because of the jab, because of the extended combinations. In this fight, Valentina Shevchenko on a round-by-round basis is takedown or bust. If she does not get a takedown, she will lose the round. On top of that, Valentina Shevchenko has gotten her back taken in 3 of her last 5 fights. That's concerning. And what stands out to me most about the first fight is that Valentina Shevchenko did not look like she was having an off night. We've seen longtime champions have off nights. Amanda Nunes Pena won. Nunes was off that night. She ends up losing. Even last week, Israel Adesanya gave us the worst performance that he has in the UFC. But for Shevchenko, she looked fine 6 months ago. She didn't look like she was fighting a bad fight. She didn't look like she wasn't herself. She looked like she was fighting the way that she fights, and it just looked like she lost to the younger, hungrier fighter who's better right now at this stage. Give me the plus money. Give me the champion. Give me Alexa Grasso in front of her people down there in Mexico. Alexa Grasso wins by decision and still. Next, we're looking at Kevin Holland versus Della Maddalena. Crazy fight, and one that we've been wanting for a while now, and it's here. In this fight and in general, there's a lot to like about Kevin Holland. He's going to be bigger. He's huge for the division at 6'3", that 81-inch reach. He's a big guy. He spent a lot of time at middleweight, but I love seeing him down at 170. At welterweight, he is a problem because he hits like a truck. He's as athletic as they come, and he's incredibly durable. The Trailblazer is dangerous as well. He's finishing 8 out of his last 9 wins, and when you look at his losses, they are pretty excusable losses. Prime Thiago Santos, and he wasn't finished. Lost to Brendan Allen, who's one of the best middleweights in the world right now, undeniably. Lost to Derek Brunson, a long-time middleweight contender, somebody who's an elite wrestler. Loses to Marvin Vettori, who could compete for middleweight gold tomorrow. And he lost to Khamzat Chimaev on what you could call short notice, and Khamzat Chimaev might be the best fighter in the world. We just never get to see it. And he has 1 UFC loss at welterweight to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in a fight where he broke his hand and he purposely didn't use his wrestling advantage. So as far as losses go, these are pretty excusable losses. Now on the other side, you have Della Maddalena, who's got some of the cleanest hands in the UFC. You could clip your fingernails, wash your hands, soak them in Germ-X, and your hands still wouldn't be as clean as Jackie D's. He throws fluid combinations, mixes up body work in the head better than almost anybody in the weight class. He's undefeated in the UFC with some nasty finishes along the way. Last time out, however, he wins a decision that frankly you could have made the argument that he lost. Albeit, if he chooses not to grapple in that fight, he probably wins more convincingly, and he probably picks up a finish sometime in the second or third round. I think that he'll learn from that experience, but the most glaring issue I had with that fight is how he was eating shots from Basil Hafez. Hafez was landing cleanly. Jack ate most of them, but that's not something you want to rely on. But you need to also keep in mind that Jack did a lot of grappling in that fight. He cut weight twice in the lead up to it, had multiple opponents, and took on an uber tough guy that he didn't know much about. I like Jack Della Maddalena in this fight because of his power, because of his boxing. He's going to spend a lot of time striking at range, and he's dealt with range well in the past. Just look at his fight with Randy Brown, where he's able to crash the pocket, get in on the inside, drop him, and then submit him. Randy Brown's got a similar build of Kevin Holland. Not the same skill set, but a similar build. But again, this is a buy low spot for Jack Della Maddalena. In the UFC, he's had 5 fights, and respectively, he's closing at -400, -200, -650, -350, -600. At the time of recording this, he's only -140, so it feels like for his talent, you're getting a bit of a discount. So give me the boxing edge, give me the clearance price on Jack Della Maddalena. I see him winning this fight with a body shot that sets up a finishing sequence. Give me Jackie D by knockout. Next, we have a fight where Terrence Mitchell is fighting Raul Rosas Jr. Raul's looking to pick up the pieces, bounce back after suffering his first loss to C-Rod earlier this year. Now, if you remember, we picked Christian Rodriguez in that fight because
they are who we thought they were.
We knew Raul wasn't going to be able to out-grapple Rodriguez. On top of that, there was a gap in experience, and it really showed in that fight. Now, there's a gap in experience here against Terrence Mitchell as well, but there's a gap in talent that really minimizes the experience. Rosas is still very green, very raw, and he's 18 years old, so that's going to happen. But what also is going to happen is that he's going to be improving rapidly. And what he's bringing to this fight is pace, decent enough cardio, and I see him being able to take down Terrence Mitchell early and finishing him in the second round. Mitchell is a talented enough guy, a dangerous enough guy on the mat, but he's going to burn hot, and I think he ultimately gasses out in the first few grappling exchanges. Now, from a betting perspective, it's hard to get on that Raul Rosas Jr. money line, so if you want to take an inside the distance line, a submission line, that makes a lot more sense to me. And if you want to put Raul Rosas Jr. on, say, the second or third line of your parlays, that makes sense as well. We've realized now, after Terrence Mitchell made his UFC debut, that he might not be UFC caliber, and the matchmaking is reflecting that. He's fodder for the young guys coming up, and I see him dropping his second fight in the UFC this week. Give me Raul Rosas Jr. to win this fight by submission. Another one of the many young Mexican prospects that are fighting on this week's card, Daniel Zellhuber, is fighting Christos Giagos. The line ain't wide enough. Daniel Zellhuber is around a -270 favorite. He could justifiably be around -400 or worse, because just like the last fight that we talked about, this is a setup spot, a promotional setup spot. How do we make the 24-year-old prospect look even better? 1, put him on the main card. 2, find somebody like Christos Giagos, who he's going to have a size advantage over. He's going to be much younger than, and Christos Giagos is 6-6 in the UFC. Very winnable fight for the Mexican prospect here. And at range, I see him picking Christos Giagos apart with his length, his power. Last time out, he looked great against Lando Venata, which is really saying something when you consider how bad he looked in his debut against Trey Ogden, which we picked Zellhuber to win last time. We picked against him against Trey Ogden because we knew the debut jitters clearly got to him in that fight, and we picked Trey Ogden to win that fight, just having a veteran performance, edging out a decision that happened. If they fought again, if they got matched up again, I'd be all over Daniel Zellhuber because he clearly has that talent. He's just, the moment was too big.
No, get those lights off. They're too bright. Turn them off.
Now for Christos Giagos, he does have decent power in his hands. We saw last time out him starch Rick Glenn in the first couple of minutes. He has a ton of experience, much better experience, but at this stage in his career, I would bet that his athleticism is on the decline. And when you look at the last couple of guys that he's beat, you can poke some holes in this. Ricky Glenn is old. Sean Soriano's not great. Carlton Minus is not UFC caliber. Damir Hazovic can't defend a takedown to save his life. So on one side, you have a young prospect with a promising career who's likely getting better versus an aging veteran with a ton of miles on him. Not only that, but Christos Giagos has not been able to put together a winning streak greater than 3 fights since 2014. So I expect a lot of kicks, a lot of lateral movement from Daniel Zellhuber, and I see him winning rounds, being the busier guy, landing the cleaner shots, and winning this fight on the judges' scorecards. Give me Daniel Zellhuber to win this fight by decision. Next, we're looking at a fight with Fernando Padilla and Kyle Nelson. I don't know how much longer we see Kyle Nelson in the UFC. I don't know if after this first 4-fight deal, he signed another 4-fight deal. This will be his 8th fight in the UFC. Kyle Nelson is 1-1-1 in his last 3. He has a decision win last time out against Blake Builder in a very low output contest from both men, a draw to Doo Ho Choi where he worked in takedowns, but he didn't do much with them and ultimately was saved by a point deduction leading to a draw. draw. Before that, he lost the decision to Zellhuber in a fight where he did great work in the first round and then gassed and lost the last two. And Kyle Nelson has shown us that he's a bit of a generalist who's really just looking to burn clock on his way to a decision win, and that's not going to fly this week, and that's not what the UFC is looking for. So what do they do with Kyle Nelson? Well, they wait till there's a fight in Mexico. They call a 26-year-old Mexican prospect who's standing at 6'1" with a 76-inch reach to come pack him up. Padilla is ridiculously long for the weight class, and he knows how to use that range. We saw that last time out. Now, he took some time off between 2021 and 2023, but he looked great in his return back in April against Julian Erosa, where he beat the brakes off of him. Julian Erosa is very game. He's a veteran. If anybody was going to give this kid problems, it would be somebody who can match his length like Julian Erosa, and it just didn't happen. The speed, the power, the placement of his punches, they were too much. Given Padilla's size advantage and striking advantage in this fight, plus what we've seen recently out of Kyle Nelson, I expect Kyle Nelson to try to crash the pocket and grind this one out up against the clinch because that's his best path to victory. I don't see that working this week for Kyle Nelson for a few reasons. The first is that he's going to get intercepted coming in. Padilla's going to catch him on the chin, drop him, finish him with strikes. The second reason that's not going to work is because this crowd is going to be going bananas for their hometown guys. So if they're in the clinch and they're stalling, expect the crowd to boo, the ref feel that heat, that pressure, and break them up, as they should. Which at that point would put them back at range where Padilla can do what he does best. I see him beating Kyle Nelson this week. You can give me the youth, the size, the power, the athleticism, the hometown guy. Everything is going in Fernando Padilla's favor this week. Give me Padilla to win this fight by knockout. Next, we're looking at a fight with Lupita, Godinez, and Elise Reed. The line is wide for this fight, but it makes sense. This isn't UFC 293 where half of the hometown people are going to lose. The Mexicans are going to show out this week. Lupita Godinez is no different. She has a chance to make this fight look very, very easy for her with her wrestling because Elise Reed struggles to keep the feet, doesn't do great work from bottom position. Godinez, on the other hand, can not only box with Elise Reed on the feet and probably win a decision that way, but she will absolutely win every round that she's able to secure takedowns in. And she's gotten away from the takedowns a little bit. We saw Angela Hill stuff takedowns, even though Lupita shouldn't have taken that fight when she did. She didn't take down Cynthia Calvillo. She only got Emily Ducote down once, but landed a lot of strikes throughout the process. But when you look at these fights with Ariane Carnelozzi, Loma Lukbunmi, Luana Carolina, Silvana Gomez Suarez, Jessica Penne, this is the Lupita that needs to show up this week. The girl that is going to go out there and get you those takedowns in every round. And for Elise Reed, she's been swapping wins and losses in the UFC, with her losses coming to Sajar Eubanks, Sam Hughes, Loma Lukbunmi. Not bad losses. These are solid fighters that she's going up against. Now her wins are over Corey McKenna, Melissa Martinez, Jinyu Frey. I would put Lupita closer to the Sajar Eubanks, Loma Lukbunmi category than I would to Jinyu Frey and Melissa Martinez. And for Elise Reed, in the fights that she's losing, not only is she being out-grappled, but she's being finished on the ground. I expect Lupita Godinez to take the path of least resistance here, shoot that blast to double leg that she's so good with, find herself in top position, and ultimately find a submission in this fight. I know that Elise Reed has probably been working tirelessly on her takedown defense and her get-up game, and I think she's going to try her best to get back up to her feet, but that's going to leave some openings. So Lupita's either going to snatch up a neck or snatch up an arm. The grappling gap is too wide. Give me Lupita Godinez to win this fight by submission. Next, we have a banger at middleweight that certainly does not go the distance. You've got Roman Kopylov fighting Josh Fremd this week. If you've been watching this channel for a little bit now, you know that I am a Josh Fremd believer through and through, and it looks like he's finally hitting his footing in the UFC with back-to-back wins over Shadriquis Dumas, Jamie Pickett. Josh Fremd is a big guy even for middleweight, and he uses his size to wear on guys. He's a decent enough grappler on the mat, and he can strike, but his bread is definitely buttered on the mat. And in this fight against Roman Kopylov, if he's able to get takedowns, I think he'll have a lot of success. I do give him the major edge in grappling in this spot. And I'm sure people are going to be low on him because of his fight last time out against Jamie Pickett being a bit of a stinker, but he did have a very bad weight cut, came in at 189, looked tired very early in that fight. So hopefully he comes into this one in better shape, gives us a cleaner performance. So at this stage, you might be thinking that I believe Josh Fremd is going to win. Well, you would be wrong. Ain't no way, because on this side, we have Roman Kopylov, the dark horse of the middleweight division. He has, over the last calendar year, looked like Roman Kopylov, destroyer of worlds. 3 knockout wins, Alessio Di Chirico, Puno Soriano. You've got Claudio Ribeiro last time out with a perfect head kick. We love active fighters in the UFC, and this guy has a chance to not only pick up his 4th win inside of a calendar year, but his 4th knockout win. If that's the case, you better put some respect on this man's name. His striking is phenomenal, and what impresses me most is that he's not overly reliant on power. You see guys like this in the heavier weight divisions who have big power, but it fades as the fight goes on. Roman Kopylov is knocking out dudes with picture-perfect technique. And he's not landing with crushing one-shot knockout power, he's just landing in the same spot over and over again. He has 11 wins in his professional career, 10 are by knockout, and only one of them is in the first round. This guy goes out there and he breaks down his opponents until they just can't take it anymore. He's drowning them with pressure and he's tapping that chin, and if you want to stand and bang in the pocket, he has the toughness to do that. Again, I like Josh Fremd a lot, and I think that he's a bad matchup for a lot of guys at 185 pounds, but Roman Kopylov is the dark horse of the division. He's going to put Josh Fremd through about 9 minutes of hell this week before finishing him late in the second round. I see Kopylov stuffing takedowns, throwing hard 1-2s down the middle, hurting Fremd several times in this fight, and finishing him in the late second round, early third round at best. Give me Roman Kopylov to win this fight by knockout. Next we have Edgar Cháirez versus Daniel Lacerda. Edgar Cháirez, very solid, Mexican tough, power. He even knocked down Tatsuro Taira last time out, who is a super prospect. There's a lot to like about him this week, and he's a pretty big favorite in this fight, and it makes sense. Daniel Lacerda is 0-4 in the UFC. He's been finished in all of these losses. He doesn't appear to have a ton of heart, cardio, or ability to adjust if things aren't going his way. Daniel Lacerda is the glass cannon of glass cannons. The talent is undeniable. When he's fresh, he might be the best fighter in the division. And if you look at his run in the UFC, in the first round, he was having success against Jeff Molina. He gets finished in the second round. Jeff Molina is undefeated in the UFC. He follows that up with a loss to Francisco Figueiredo, where he gets Figueiredo down with ease. Figueiredo slick on the mat, grabs up a knee bar, he loses that fight. He nearly finished Victor Altamirano before he gets hurt to the body and loses. Victor Altamirano is a dog, and an even bigger dog than Victor Altamirano is CJ Vergara, who he was killing before he gassed out in the second round. In round 2, he gets out hustled, he gasses, he gets taken down, he gets finished. Now in that fight against Jeff Molina, not only was that his debut in the UFC, that was my debut on YouTube. That was my first YouTube video, and I picked him to win. Since then, I have not picked Daniel Lacerda ever again. We have made money on the other side pretty consistently. I say that to say this. You may call me a madman. Daniel Lacerda, Daniel Da Silva, damn Daniel, back at it again with the white vans, whatever you want to call him. I am picking him to win this fight this week. He is as dangerous as they come in the early goings, and if his technique could be sustained for even 8 minutes into a fight, he would be a monster. If he can do what he does in the first 30 to 60 seconds for 8 minutes, he beats everybody. I believe that. This is as buy low a spot as you can ask for, and not for nothing. This is his 5th fight in the UFC, and from what I understand about UFC contracts, they give you a 4-fight deal when you sign on. So that means this man went 0-4, and the UFC said, hey kid, let's sign you back on. Why? Because he puts on fun fights. He's never been in a boring fight. The results haven't gone his way in the UFC, but you've never watched a fight and thought, oh, that sucked. Not only are they fun fights, but they're competitive fights throughout most of it before it gets turned on its head by one moment that changes everything. I also think that we can agree that at some point in his last 3 fights, respectively, in each of them, you, me, and everybody else thought Daniel Lacerda was going to win. You give this guy enough attempts, he's going to catch lightning in a bottle once, and I could see this being the week. Daniel Lacerda wins the fight inside the distance. If he wants to go out there and wrestle, I think he has the edge. If he wants to go out there and strike, I think early on he has the edge. Now, if he wilts like cooked spinach, I wouldn't be surprised, but Daniel Lacerda has all the tools to not only get it done in this fight, but get it done early in spectacular fashion and bust up parlays. Watch out for those parlay busters on a week-to-week basis. Daniel Lacerda has that written all over him. Give me Daniel Lacerda, Daniel Dos Santos, Daniel Da Silva, whatever it is, inside the distance. Next, we're looking at a fight with Tracy Cortez and Jasmine Jasudavicius. I love Tracy Cortez in this fight because her wrestling is serious, and a wrestling advantage like the one that she has here is going to turn into a lot of wins. Evidence of that is that she's undefeated in the UFC, and she's secured multiple takedowns in her fights in the UFC. She's survived bad positions as well. In her last fight against Melissa Gatto, who's a very tricky grappler, she had to survive getting taken down, survive submission attempts from bottom, and in her fight before that, she was dropped by Justine Kish, but was able to fight her way back into that fight and win a split decision. Now on the other side, Jasudavicius is coming off of a win over Miranda Maverick, where she cashed as a big underdog. She stuffed every takedown attempt and racked up over a round and a half of control time. If she stuffs takedowns here, I think that she wins. I give her the slight grappling edge. She stuffed every takedown and racked up over a round and a half of control time, and if she stuffs takedowns here, I could see her having an edge in the striking and winning on the judges' scorecards. But I have a hard time seeing her out grapple Tracy Cortez here, because Tracy Cortez has shown us time and time again that if she wants to fight to the ground, she's going to get it there. I like how close the money line is here, because it's also going to give us reasonable prop odds, and I think that Tracy Cortez by decision is one of the best bets of the week, because Jasmine Jasudavicius is super tough. Tracy Cortez has been a decision machine in the UFC. Solid plus money on that prop. Clearly the best spot for this fight. Give me Tracy Cortez to win by decision. Next, we're looking at a fight with Charlie Campbell and Alex Reyes. This is an easy one, not even worth the time. Charlie Campbell is a lot younger. He's got a deeper tool bag. He's been more active, and he's had success against guys who are having success in the UFC. You'll remember his fight on Contender Series against Chris Duncan, where he was smoking Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan catches him on the chin, knocks him out, and you play punchy kicky, that's gonna happen, yeah? But he fights out of a good gym. He does a good job of sitting down on punches. He's got heavy leg kicks, and I think that he's going to win this fight and cash as a big favorite, not surprisingly. Alex Reyes has not competed in MMA in 6 years. Last time he was out there, he got knocked out in the first round very early on by Mike Perry. Absolutely no way I would ever bet on Alex Reyes. I don't know why the man would decide to take this fight unless it was just a financial thing. It doesn't make sense. He's not going to win. He's probably going to get hurt. He'll make a little bit of money in the process, sure, but it just doesn't make sense. This guy's not going to go on a run. He's not going to be competitive in the UFC. Chuck Campbell packs him up inside of the first 2 rounds. And lastly, we're looking at a fight with Josephine Knutson. She's fighting Marnik Mann this week. Josephine Knutson is one of the biggest favorites on the card, and it makes sense. She looked good last time out on Contender Series just a couple of weeks ago. She's very steady on the feet. She's got good takedowns. She's strong as hell in the clinch, and I think that she's going to be able to give Marnik Mann all types of problems and win a decision pretty cleanly this week. I don't think that Knutson is going to finish Mann this week, because Mann is tough, and she's also going to give Knutson a lot to worry about, especially when she's throwing up submissions off of her back. She's going to be looking for takedowns of her own as well, and she's not going to give up on herself. This is a huge opportunity for both of these women trying to make a name for themselves, making their UFC debut. I don't see one of them backing down from the other, but I think Marnik Mann, technique-wise, physically, I think she's outgunned here. I was really impressed with what I saw on the Contender Series from Knutson. I thought that was going to translate into a lot of UFC wins. It didn't even translate into a UFC contract until now. The whole contract at the end of the Contender Series shows is just a formality. If you give a good account of yourself on the show, you'll end up in the UFC anyway. They need the talent. That's why I have Oscar taking jiu-jitsu classes. Anybody can make it nowadays. Yes, Oscar, I know you are shorter than most flyweights and have to cut weight to get down to middleweight, but Duran Wynn does it all the time. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm, and I will see you later in the week for final picks.